Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Nice to see a nice healthy crowd again. I thought I'd start off tonight by showing you something I've been working on, which is the temperature regions of a star rendered as volumetric spheres. Which I think looks quite cool. And these will all adhere to zooming in and out, etc. I think the colours need tweaking a bit. Maybe not quite so vibrant. But yeah, so you can now see the temperature regions nice and easily. All in 3D. They're kind of properly volumetric as well. Need to sort out the character's eyes, because if I go and stand in the cloud, you can see that it starts to look a little bit terrifying. But yeah, so that's quite cool. I still need to add the fourth zone, which is kind of like the ice zone around the outside. It's also still really laggy when you do the zoom, so I think it's still duplicating something, but I'll have a look at that in a second. But you can see that line there, that's the limit of the ice line in our system. But it's not doing a darker blue on the outside yet, which is something I still need to add. So I think what I'll focus on is fixing this chair, because for some reason this chair has stopped working. And I need to also add all of the data readouts as well. So when you're clicking on stuff, we're not getting any data yet, so I just need to add that as well. You'll have to bear with my voice this evening, because I've still got the sniffles, and my voice is going to be fading in and out. Okay, so when we zoom in and out on the display, what we're doing is we're actually just calling this global event, and that's passing through what sensor mode we're on, and then what display range we're using. So on that one, which is this function here, so we're capturing our sensor range, and then we're resetting the display, and then we're basically respawning everything at that new scale. But the question is, why is it duplicating things? Yeah, Echo Zeppelin, I agree. I'm using an old Logitech headset, so yeah, apologies for slappy lips, and it's going to be worse because I got a cold as well, so sorry about that. So I have a suspicion that when we're drawing the splines, they're not getting removed. Yeah, I'm feeling much better now, thanks. It's Claire who's really ill at the moment. She hasn't stopped coughing all day. In fact, she's not long got out of bed. Right, let's take a look at this reset function to find out what's going on with it. Okay, so we're definitely clearing out all of those. Getting rid of all the static meshes, all the text render components. So we're adding a static mesh as a child of our scene component, and then we're moving it around relative to that to create its location relative to this star, and then we're adding it to an array, and then we are destroying everything in that array. Reset it, so that should be getting rid of the planet walls. Smile says, I absolutely love the game and I can't wait to see the shuttles in the complete version. I'm right with you there, me too, and I hope you guys feel better soon. Thank you. Literally as I was saying that, Claire is coughing away in the front room. I was fortunate. I only really came down with it for about a week, but Claire always seems to get colds and flu worse than I do. But I'm sure she'll be on the mend within a few days. Okay, so next we're doing a text render component. We are attaching it to the scene component. Adding it to an array, and we are we're not clearing that array. Okay, that could be the issue right there. Okay, I think that was probably the issue, but I will keep picking through the code just to make sure. So what would have been happening is it would have been adding multiple labels to the map and then not actually deleting them afterwards. So we're definitely doing the spline ones. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I reckon that's fixed it. Let's give it a try. Okay, so we should be able to zoom in and out smoothly now without it lagging to hell. It was nowhere near that smooth before, so that's good. The repeat on the button's only 10 milliseconds, so it's not going to be a super smooth zoom. Yeah, happy with that, that's good. I need to make this super hot zone a little bit more obvious. And I'll probably reduce the colour on those spheres a little bit, so they're not quite so vibrant. Thank you, Telesters. That's very great. Very generous of you. Yeah, the blinking is because it's literally deleting and recreating the entire map every time you zoom. This will be done more efficiently at some point, but it's good enough for now. And yeah, eventually we will lerp the values, so it can be a much smoother zoom. So while you're holding the button down, it'll constantly be retargeting the endpoint of the lerp. And then when you let go, it will just finish the lerp to whatever the final range was. Yes, this will be in the next demo update. Right then. So with that working, yes, yeah, the ship that's currently being shown on Discord is going to be the next update, which is this one. Turn on my super light a minute. So this is the ship that's going to be in the next demo update. Obviously, it's lacking quite a lot of hull, but when the update goes out, either that'll have finished hull or at least placeholder hull. But yeah, it's going to have the ring around it and everything. Okay, so we want to start with this one. Right, so this is where we're going to start building up all the various bits of information. I'm going to try and avoid this turning into a Q&A stream tonight, so I will pick off the occasional question that pops up, but hopefully Claire and the community at large will be able to address most of the common questions that come up. Claire will poke me if there's something she can't answer. I just need to follow the logic through on this a second. So, blah, blah, blah. Send that for replication. Long range. Where's long range? Okay, long range scan. And on the widget, we then need to get that information extracted from the current target. Don't think I've set that one up yet. Mode buttons, range buttons, manual entry buttons. No, we haven't got that set up yet, so I shall do that over here. Yeah, just call it scan target. And I'm going to need a mode on that. So now we know what mode we're dealing with. And then on here, we just need to scan target. And just manually specify the mode, because this is the one we're dealing with. So this will naturally be a replicated event, because when we pass the button press through from the widget, it goes via the player controller, gets turned into a server RPC, and then it in turn gets fired as a multicast RPC, which goes across to all clients. So this button, this event, happens on all clients. Right, so now we need this widget switcher. And I think we'll go ahead and put the actual scan animation back in, which was there originally. So essentially we've got just a really, really simple throbber, rather than it just appearing instantly. And this was calculated based on the number of targets in a system. So the more targets a system has, the longer it takes to scan. So when we have selected our target, yeah, we're populating the current sensor target. So what we'll do is we will get that. What are we dealing with on this one? So so that one's going to have to be system target. So we need not that one, but that one. Okay, so which one are we actually setting? That's the question. Blah, 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 blah. Then we run this. So when we do that, we populate that. Okay, so we're sending this variable here, the sector location, and that should have... It should have the planet. Thank you, Gamingkin. They said, very excited for this. Loving watching it all come together. Keep up the awesome work. Also get well soon, Dan and Claire. Thank you. Yeah, we are a little under the weather, but we're getting there. Thank you. Doesn't help with fuzzy brain when you're trying to work things out. Right, what's in this struct? That's not the one we wanted. Okay. Okay, so this is the point where we are extracting all of the data from there. So if we break this one real quick, this is the actual star system data, including the list of planets, and that's the one we want. Now, I don't think we're actually passing this through, because we're only getting the star. Central star is always going to be the first item in the array, which is why it's 0. So as much as we have captured that data, we're not passing that through. So what I want to be able to do is, on the actual sensors themselves, so on the UI, do here, grab a list of how many planets there are, and then delay that animation according to how many planets there are, which we can't do if we don't have access to that array. So that needs passing through. Hyperonics. Yes, there are some cases where I'm casting where it won't matter because it's not creating a reference chain, and most other places it will be using an interface like here, for example. So here we're using an interface to get the data we need, but we're having to cast that to game state because it's actually a component that's sat on game state, which it won't be in the long term. So this cast is something that can go. Because yeah, quite rightly, casts should be avoided because casts are the devil and they create horrible reference chains and they cause memory bloat and all sorts if you don't manage the reference chains very well. So yeah, blueprint interfaces are by far the superior way of doing things. So I think what I'll do... Yeah, so at the moment I'm passing through just the central star. I think what I'll do is I'll pass through more than that because then I've got access to the whole array. Myself for what that is, sector location details. Okay. as well. See, what we're doing here is we're storing our current target on a rep notify, because then any new joining clients will have the correct target information already selected, and then that's how we're driving this on the UI. But I'm just wondering, in actuality, would it be easier to send the whole lot through? I think it probably would. So rather than just sending just the object that's targeted, but then actually saying that, we could do with being able to target planets individually, which, yeah, ignore me. Does, however, also mean that we need a second variable for storing some more data there, because that one is also going to need to be stored. Alright, so this one's going to be sector location details. That's the target. Right, so that draws this. This is what you see on the UI. So this is the thing you click. So that captures target location. Then we generate the full star system when you click on it, because we want to wait and not do this until we actually need to, because this is where it generates literally all the planets. So we don't want to do that for every single one in the list all at once. And then we update our current target with this. Which also means when we're creating child objects, which is these ones, this is going to be the individual planets. We're going to have to do a similar thing here. Essentially, what I want to do here is generate this data as early as possible, but not too early, because we want to do it once. If we're generating it more than once, then we're wasting processing power. And I'm just thinking this might very well be something we want to do. So we can't do it there, because then that'll be for every single one in the list. So we definitely don't want to do that. So definitely has to be when you've clicked on it. Yeah. So really this is the earliest place we can do it, because otherwise it's just going to generate that data for every single star system in the list, which we don't want to happen. So we do that here, generate all the data, but we kind of also need it here, because when we expand the tree and draw all the planets, we could do with passing this along to those planets. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm just talking to myself really, just kind of trying to work out what the best order to do this is in words. Normally on the dev streams, historically, there's only ever been about 20 people watching, so it's been much more of an intimate chat sort of situation, but now that we've got more popular, the streams are a lot busier. I'm just going to set my Discord to do not disturb a minute, otherwise you're going to get all my pings. Right, so the chicken and egg scenario we've got right now is, how do we generate this data once and only once without doing it the moment the object is created? I guess the easier answer to that is you can't, so we're probably going to have to do it once here. So if you click on but actually what I can do, yeah, I can just check to see whether we've populated it or not. That's easy enough. So if we promote that to a variable, we do an is set on that? No, we can't, can we? Ah, that's annoying. Yeah, I think just doing it again is probably the easier option here. But only if we're expanding. Well, that's interesting because it actually is already doing that. Why did I do that the first time round? Interesting. Because when we generate the second layer of the tree, which is this one, we really need to be adding the sector location details on here so that we can pass that through. So sector location details. That is also struct sector location details. Ooh, spelling. Right, so we need to set that. And it needs to be callable. So get sector location details. Right, so that makes that information available immediately, so that when we pass the target through, we can just pass through that data without having to generate it again. Okay, so that's fine from that side. Now, of course, it needs to also be exposed on spawn. Otherwise, it's not going to show up on here like that. Which means that rather than generating that each time, we'll just do that once. And then we'll just pop that in there. Right, okay, so that should sort that out. Which means, regardless of whether or not we're clicking on the star itself or one of its planets, we're still going to be passing through the full system information. Which means on here, here, no, actually, hang on. To go back a step, so on this one, we go, right, okay, so we're setting it on here, then we're doing to here. Yeah, so I think what we'll do is just pass that data along there. So this doesn't need to be rep notified, it just needs to be replicated. And then we'll pass it with this one. Although, that does actually then need to happen in a different order. Otherwise it won't get sent. So we set that variable and then we pass it here. Yeah, which means that then needs that on there. what's calling that? That will be one of these, I expect. So sensor, sector locations, details. Okay. Is that being called directly? Okay, that's responding to a global event, which must be being triggered by this. Okay, I'll come back to that one. In the meantime, I shall use this one. Right, so that gets us our targeted system data, which means now you can now break that, get that, get the length of that. Okay, so then we need to set what's it called? Active widget index. Yeah, so we need that one, which is 2. Okay. So we set it to 2. And then we do a simple delay for that. And then we set it to the actual data layer, which is 3, I believe. So 2 is that, and then 3 is that, yeah. Right, so that accomplishes the task of delaying the scan based on however many planets there are. That TMW handler, Alex, that's a plugin I'm using. It's called TMW Event Handler. And what it allows you to do is it essentially allows you to do global events. It works like an event dispatcher, except you don't need to cast to things to actually set up the event dispatcher. It's truly global. I always use the indexes on the widget switchers. Yeah, so the way they work. So, do I have any on this one? Don't think I do. Don't think I have one on here either, actually. So, essentially what you do is, so this is the plugin. You bind to an event class, and the class is essentially your payload. So if you look at that, that literally this one just has a struct in it, but you could have any number of variables, and this is what gets passed as a global event. So you just bind to that, and then you cast to that class in order to extract that data when the event is called. So it's a nice way of having global events that's accessible globally anywhere within the game code, and you don't need to know which class is actually generating the event. So whereas with a normal event dispatcher, you need to actually cast to the class that's calling the event in order to bind to it, but with a global event you don't need to, so it kind of removes that cast, which is nice. The downside to it is if you don't document your code properly, then you can very easily get lost as to what's calling things from where. Yeah, I don't think I've ever tried it that way. I like the fire and forget nature of this way, but yeah, if you like with these here, I know off the top of my head, you know, what's calling these global events, but really, you know, it's good practice to write down exactly what is calling these events, because there's no way of knowing just by looking at it which class this is coming from. Where was I? Oh no, sorry, we're not using game playability system at all. I've never actually used it before. I'm assuming that's a UE5 new edition. Yeah, let's have a look at that at some point. Yeah, I'm definitely trying to go down that road as much as possible, where nothing is casting to anything if I can possibly avoid it. Like right now, we've got some events here which are obviously called externally, but I've neglected to write down what's calling them, so I just need to go through and sanity check this and just kind of remind myself why it's being called. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think modularity is very much where we're going with this. You know, if we look at all the blueprint systems that are being used here, each individual system is very much its own isolated class. It's a self-contained framework of code which doesn't relate to anything else in the game, so it can all be called in separately, you know, without horrible reference chains. Just want to try this a minute, make sure that's actually going all the way through to where I need it to. Okay, so if we select that and then click that, okay, so we got halfway there. So what didn't happen was this bit. So the delay was coming up with a duration of 0, which means it was just going straight to displaying the data, which means this was defaulted. But why? Okay, so where are we? Long range. So we clear the list, we set the title, we add all of the list items, which is this class here. When the list item is set, we add all of the data, which generates the name and everything. Okay, that's all fine, and then we click on it and it does all of this. I think I know what's happening. I reckon this is the player controller. So if we look at the player controller, it will be because of this. It's not passing that through, so we need that one there. give that another quick try. Tank demolisher. Yes, there are design rules for the ships. It's things like, I guess it's more like building regs, in the sense that there has to be at least a 40cm cavity in all of the walls to fit things like the pipes and the cables. The deck separation needs to be at least 100cm, again, to fit in all the HVAC conduit and any other utilities that are running through there. Things like the ring, so on the external side of the ring where it generates the field, there can be nothing physical that would prevent that field from forming, so nothing can be in front of or behind the ring. Little things like that, just to set some standards for the construction of the ship and the way the technology works. So we should, I would hope, get a delay. Why are you not doing a delay? Yeah, for the most part with the player controller, there's only a few things. I say a few. This is essentially all the stuff that's being replicated, but a lot of that is starting to get condensed. So, like this one here, for example, this manages the replication of practically every single button, because all we're doing is we're passing a button ID. And then we're also recording which class is sending this request through as well. So all it's doing is it's passing this back to that blueprint and saying this ID has been pressed, and it leaves that individual blueprint to deal with the result of pressing that button. So that is it. That's the sum total of everything that needs to be on player controller in order to handle 90% of the button clicks. Some of these other ones, they're actually redundant now. Like this one here, where originally it was set up where just fluid devices had their own pass-through, but that's no longer needed because we've got a generic one now. Yeah, in other examples, we have things like this. So again, if we're passing a vector through, it works with any vector. So we can have one set up for passing floats, one for vectors, all the main data types. It only really ever gets cumbersome when you're actually passing like a custom struct or something like that. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on this as the project grows to make sure this doesn't become too bloated. Yeah, I'll have a look into that, thanks. Oh, look, didn't plug that in, that's why. It's always something stupid. Actually, just to completely and utterly double check that, I may as well just make sure that that is definitely going through. Yep, okay. Yeah, this is running on 5.3. We'll be moving to 5.4 at some point, usually a few months after its full release, just to give it time to bed in a little bit. Yeah, we're using, I think it was 4 engine plugins at the last count, so obviously we need to wait for those to be updated. But that's exactly why we're avoiding the use of engine plugins as much as possible, because waiting for things to be updated is a pain, and we don't want to be bound by a third-party author. There we go, that's better. Yes, we were in UE4 originally. Yeah, we'll one of the reasons that we didn't want to go down the road of using a custom engine version is because we want to maintain the ability to update whenever Epic update Unreal. Yeah, you get new features, new optimizations. It's nice to be able to take advantage of those. We didn't really have to change anything moving from 4 to 5. We chose to do a few things like converting things to nanite, but they weren't essential as part of the upgrade. Yeah, I guess the reason I went with Unreal Engine is that's just what I'm familiar with. I started off using Unreal years ago, and Unity never really presented anything that was worth changing for. And of course, this was back in the UE4 days when the two were closer together. But these days, with UE5 and all the new features in UE5, that's pushed it way above and beyond what Unity's capable of. So I'm glad we started with UE4, so that wasn't too much of a jump. Yeah, definitely. Once we get nanite for skeletal meshes, that's going to be another massive capability uptick in terms of fidelity on things like metahumans. The LOD 0 of a metahuman is crazy detailed, and to be able to put that in with nanites would be amazing. Oh, Claire's just handed me a drink. She's so lovely. Okay, so this is obviously working for the star system as a whole. We don't want it to do that for planets, because you're just scanning a single planet, so that needs changing. But before I do that, let's make sure we can actually extract the data that we're after. I will tidy this up afterwards, of course, but while I'm prototyping, it can be messy. Now the game will have combat. Combat's not the focus of the game. The focus of the game is exploration, but that doesn't mean it won't have combat. Not every alien species you meet is going to be friendly. Yes, I also hate building UIs. In fact, building UIs is my least favourite part of game dev. I find it very monotonous and very boring. Yeah, scan time, we won't bother basing that on distance because you'll be able to scan things literally on the other side of the galaxy. So it's just going to be based on how many objects there are. Right, so the current sensor target is that one. And this should be a large system object, i.e. a planet or star. Right, and just for a really rough and ready output, we're going to do name. And description. Obviously, we do have access to a lot of other data here, like all the orbital data and everything else, but we'll just start with that for now. Just so we know it's working. Yes, there will be alliances with other races, probably more the manually crafted alien races. It's ugly, but it's working. Okay, good. Okay, brilliant. So right now, the the description that's being generated is being constructed as a big text block. I think I'll actually break that up so that each individual data point is separate. Okay. AUs don't vary. An AU is a set distance. Something like 300,000 kilometers. Hang on, let me Google that. Much further than that. So one astronomical unit is 149 million kilometers. But it's always that, it never varies. All the kilometers. Thank you, Fredishay, that's appreciated. Yeah, we'll include the Voyager probes and lots of other things in the Sol system, but they won't have been discovered by aliens, because even in 2261, which is like 230 odd years from now, they won't have got very far. They'll still be very much within the Oort cloud. I think what I'm going to do, because working on UIs is very, very dull, I think I might actually go into the Galaxy system and have a look at generating some alien life. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here, as you can see, which needs a lot of tidying up. My favourite thing to develop is very much stuff in the Galaxy. I always thought it would be working on the ship and the ship systems and doing all the engineering stuff. That's what I expected to enjoy the most. But when it came to actually building the Galaxy and doing the astrophysics, I'm so much happier doing that. It's just something I can get my teeth stuck into. Yes, you will eventually be able to board any of the ships externally before you fly off when starting a brand new game. Okay, so first of all, when we're generating the galaxy, we generate a very small amount of data, the least amount of data possible, and then we sort of expand on that data. So we take things like the age, for example, is based on the class, but we don't do that until here, after it's been generated, because that's just data you don't need to know when you're just rendering a star field. And then we work out things like the various temperature regions. But specifically, so I think I started... Yeah, so I started implementing the Roche limits. So that's actually done now. So we shouldn't get planets generating in stars anymore. And then we determine our base planet type. Then we deal with the planet's mass, all the densities. Then we'd make our final choice on what type of planet it is. Yeah. This is to aid myself. So like when I'm like browsing through, I'm like, okay, so where was I doing that? So it's nice to be able to just see it. But as I said, this is a really, really bloated blueprint that needs a lot of tidying up. So essentially, yeah, so going to have to start injecting life into here. So when we're doing our Earth-like surface material, right now it's just random. Okay, so really it needs to start off with the star age. So when it comes to generating life, obviously the age of the star defines the age of the star system, and that defines the developmental stage of the life on that world. Which means we kind of need a graph of human history. Okay, so when did primordial life begin on Earth? Okay, so we're looking about 1 billion years for basic primordial life. Because systems like O-classes won't be able to have complex, intelligent life unless it didn't originate from there. I think I need to change how this is calculated, because this is essentially a multiplier of Sol. So that needs to be, that needs to actually be a proper value rather than a multiplier. So that's something that needs fixing. Okay. Okay, yeah, so a lot of this code here needs to be redone and tidied up. I think I will go ahead and do that off stream, because that's going to be a bit of a nightmare. Yeah, so star age needs to be recalculated properly. Temperature regions are fine. Central star stuff is fine. And it needs more in-depth atmospherics as well, because there's not a lot going on there atmosphere-wise. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to leave that for now, because that's going to turn into a lot of research to sort that out. So we'll go back to the original plan. Let's finish this sensor thing. So the next thing we need to get working on the sensors is zooming the planet display. Let's see how far I got with that a sec. We're in the UK here, so that's BST at the moment, British summertime. Yeah, it's 10:15 here at the moment, although I do tend to work overnight, so I'll be up for many hours yet. Oh yeah, that chair needs fixing. Yeah, we've got a couple of actual PhD toting astrophysicists in our Discord. So I will be very much getting them involved in in all of the deep dive when it comes to generating life and atmospheres and that sort of thing. Okay, why isn't Earth getting rid of the other modes? Okay. Right, okay, so that needs zooming. I think we've got a similar problem here, where it's creating duplicates. Looking at the frame rate, I think we are starting to make many duplicate Earths. Okay. Yeah, it's quite literally bigger than the galaxy. Change how this works slightly. So it was the case that the holo display was actually working out which planet to show, but I'd rather drive that from the sensors instead. So that doesn't need to be there. So if we are doing a full refresh, then we do want to reset sensors. And then draw all of this. Okay, these need to be added to an array. Did I make one for those? No, okay. So that needs to be an array. Stop it. So we get that. We add that. Okay, and then we also need to clear that before we do anything else with it. Okay, and then we need to make sure we delete all those actors. should have stopped the generation of like a zillion Earths. Okay, it's also got everything resetting nicely. That's good. And we should be able to zoom in and out without generating loads and loads of planets. Yep, perfect. All good. Okay, so every time that is loaded, it's generating another child actor, which means we need to pass through. Yeah, right, okay. Ah, I think we need an is valid check on there somewhere. Shouldn't be getting destroyed anywhere else, actually. Where's the message log? It's probably just going through too quickly. Okay, so the next fun thing we need to do is... So on the planet display, we need to toggle whether or not it's focused on the location of the ship or the location of the planet, because obviously we need to display the local system with all the moons and things as well. So, we need to toggle for that. I can steal that one for now. Thank you, Kumakuda. Will the conference room and captain's office be used for anything with the NPCs? Are they just for role-playing with players? Yeah, so eventually we do want the NPCs to go in there to actually have conferences. So that'll probably be more in the single-player campaign than it will be in the sandbox. But the screen in the conference room will be used to display a lot of data. So things like crew rosters, being able to pull up details on previously scanned star systems, engineering overlays, that sort of thing. I think in the sandbox it is predominantly going to be something players use, but yeah, in the single player campaign a lot of the story elements will take place there. Yeah, the buttons were actually called that, and I think they are that on the demo right now. But a lot of non-native English speakers were getting confused by what those buttons actually meant. So just having short, medium, and long range is a lot more generic. So long range is any star system across the galaxy. Medium range is the full extent of a star system, and then short range is a planet and its moons. And anything else that might be nearby. But there are also separate sensor arrays as well. So on the ship you'll have separate physical sensor arrays for each of those modes. Yeah, something I'd actually love to be able to do is to use the conference room screen for like playing YouTube videos and things. I can't find a way of getting the net to work during the game running. There are various plugins you can get for having YouTube videos playing in the editor, but not on a packaged game. So if someone has a solution to that, then let me know and I'll implement it. Short range will be used for detecting life. And yes, all 4 sensor arrays are completely separate objects, so if one gets damaged, the other 3 will still work. Yes, the ship will take damage in early access. Yeah, I think web browsing's fine, but YouTube streams, it's about being able to actually play the stream from YouTube. It's the format that it streams in. Yeah, I definitely want a whiteboard screen that we can interact with in the game. It's easy to do because you just put a render target on the screen and then use something like vertex painting. It would be nice to be able to save that though between sessions. I think if we're writing to a texture, using coordinates, that's probably the easier way of doing that, because you can then store the render target in a variable and save that. But I'd have to experiment with it and see. But yeah, it'd be great if you could pick up a whiteboard pen and just do whiteboard diagrams. Did I? Oh yeah, I did. Thank you. I'm going to show you that's one of many typos. This is going to be a whole new section for handle short range buttons. That's a good question, Gilded Rose. I think percentage-wise, I reckon we're about on 25% in terms of the core systems. Because things like the electrical code is practically done, the fluid system's practically done, the Galaxy is done at a basic level, but needs a lot more work to be fleshed out. The character system needs a complete overhaul, so I'm going to put that at 0%. But yeah, I'd say overall, code base wise, we're probably 25% or less. Thank you, Dave. Do you reckon early access will include security sensors and gas control / life support? It will certainly include the security station on the bridge with some CCTV cameras and the ability to remotely close bulkheads and that sort of thing. We'll probably also get to the point where if someone sabotages something, you'll be able to detect who that was based on waving a tool at it. I don't think we'll get as far as implementing atmospheric pressure and dealing with hull breaches and that sort of thing. I imagine that's going to be a post-early access feature. Life support, we will have that on the environmental control station, and we can probably, almost certainly, deal with temperature within the ship. So that ship-wide you can have temperature. So if you change the temperature on the environmental control screen, then that will filter throughout the ship. But yeah, not actual gas propagation yet. well, long term, I guess if the ship is unpowered and you can't heat the ship, then the NPCs will need to die of cold. Eventually. Just wondering to myself whether to make this a boolean or an integer. I think I'll just go with an integer for now. That might end up changing. Short range focus. I've lost the ability to spell. Thanks, Ben. Good to have you on the stream. Right, so now that we have set this up, so this is basically the start point and the end point of the button press. So now we need to go into here, get our short range mode, and add a new output there just to deal with that. And then we need another variable here, which is short range display focus, which is an integer, so which we're going to set. And actually the easiest way to do this is we shall do a select on what. So if it's 0 we make it 1, and if it's 1 we make it 0. Nice and simple, because it's just a simple toggle for now. Because eventually, actually, this is going to have to focus on moons and things, so yeah, we'll just leave it at that for now. And then that needs to be notify, grab that, borrow that, and then we do display focus, and then we pass it the new variable. Okay, that should be nice and simple. So we press the button, it goes through all the way to the player controller, all the way back again, sets that variable, which is rep notify, so it's already replicated, and then that just comes back and sets this variable, and then we do something with it. So I guess really what we need to be doing here is, because this isn't affecting anything on on the actual UI. It's only really affecting the holo display. So we need to tell the holo display that information. And we will actually... Oh yes, we need to update the UI on here, but that's all, because I can tell the holo display from there. Where is our global event? There you are. So this needs expanding for all of the display modes. For each of these we need a focus and a range. Because like the GPS one, for example, could focus either on the center of the galaxy or the ship or your manual target locations. That needs 3 at least. Which means that strut needs more values adding to it. So we need 4 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4. And all of these need to be integers. So I guess that becomes focus. I saw there was a few people saying goodbye there, so I shall say goodbye to you all at once. Sorry, I'm only half paying attention to the chat at the moment. Hopefully you'll join us on the next stream as well. Always good to have you along. Okay, so you've got the GPS range, the GPS focus, long range and the long focus, medium range, medium focus. Okay. Right now I'm setting up the interaction between the sensor's UI and the output of that UI on the holo display. So when we define what the sensors are actually focused on, that needs to go through to tell the holo display that that has actually happened. Which means we need multiple versions of this. Which means that I've called that something awful. It's a terrible variable name and that needs to be fixed. So that's going to be focus GPS. Focus long. Focus medium, and that one will become focus short, which I will have to do in a minute because that's going to break the rep notify variable. Okay, so did that wrong. And that horribly named one goes there. Thank you, yes, I need to rename this. The problem with when you've got something set up as rep notify, it creates a function on rep and then the variable name. If we then go and rename the variable, it doesn't automatically rename this, and you have to then recreate that function. It's a complete pain. But so what I shall do is copy all of that, and then rename it. So that is focus short. So now that I've done that, you see it's no longer rep notified. So we then need to rep notify it again. And we will now have a new variable, which we then have to go and refresh these with. If there's an easier way of doing that, do let me know, because it's a right pain. There's a few places where that needs to be updated as well. I just realised actually that's going to need a new event. Thank you, Permanent Ninja, it's appreciated. Just muddling through for the most part. Just do these other ones, then I shall make some new events. back to those ones. Okay, so that's the medium range one done. And the long range one done. And the GPS one done. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely very excited to be doing planetary landings. The Unreal PCG tools are incredible. There's just so much you can do with them. If you just look up on YouTube some of the things people are doing with the PCG tools, it's really, really awesome. So I can't wait to throw that on our planetary landings. Procedural content generation tools. There's an author. Actually, I might be able to link it. Hang on. One moment. Yeah, so if you check out that channel, that shows you what Unreal Engine 5 is capable of for planetary landings. Yeah, it's pretty breathtaking stuff. It's Epic have done an incredible job with it, and all we need is just a team of artists doing the asset work for the base assets, and yeah, the PCG tools can just generate planets really, really easily with all the distribution of biomes and the grass and the trees and the rocks and stuff. There are definitely going to be lots of planets which are barren with balls of rock, because that's the nature of the galaxy, and there's a lot of that out there. But our plan with those is to at least make them geologically interesting. So, interesting geological structures, interesting mountains, ravines, that sort of thing. Tablet surfing over there. Okay, so that's working. So the next thing we need there is a little ship. Is the one inside? No, so that's obviously not being displayed. So, in the same way that on here you've got the planet offset from the ship and the central star, I'm going to have to do the same thing on this one, where it's actually recording the location of the ship relative to the planet. So as you're flying around Earth like this, you'll actually see a little 3D ship flying around the planet. And then indeed, if you focus on the ship, then the planet needs to be off to one side and blended nicely at the edges. Yeah, so when this goes off sideways, obviously this is just a hollow sphere, so to find a nice way of blending that, I might use something like this, like a volumetric center, so it's at least solid when you're not seeing the edge of it. But I'll have a look at that. Yeah, when it comes to Earth, obviously there's no way we could do the whole surface of Earth with all the cities and the roads and everything. That's just, that's well beyond the scope of the game. So we'll likely have a couple of landing zones. So we'll have like the UN headquarters, like a UN academy, that sort of thing. So there'll be locations you can fly down to, but you'll be restricted to those locations. You can't explore the full surface of Earth. And the same will be true for any alien planets that are that developed. If they've got cities and infrastructure on their surface, then it's far beyond the practicalities of the game to be able to generate that procedurally. Okay, well, I can feel my nose getting stuffier and stuffier, and it's been 2.25 hours now, so I'm going to call it a night here. I shall leave you with this view of our beautiful new volumetric colour zones. Thank you again, everyone, for joining the stream, and I shall be back on Wednesday for more streaming goodness. And thank you again, everyone who's backed us on Kickstarter. It's truly appreciated, and I can't wait to get stuck into building things like planetary landings and all the other cool stuff we've got planned. Okay, thank you again, and I shall see you on Wednesday's stream. Bye for now.